I've spoken many times now on the benefits of training your back every day. What originally began as an experiment to see how much volume the back can realistically recover from has become so much more. Daily back training continues to make me bigger and stronger in the best ways possible, and the improved posture and the confidence associated with it has had a major impact on every aspect of daily life. One thing I haven't talked much about thus far, though, is how to start. What's the best way to begin training your back every day? Let's get into it. To begin, I should tell you that your back is most likely able to handle way more volume than you're doing now. I am approaching 9 months of daily back training and never once has it failed to recover. So if there's one thing you take away from this video, it should be that you can probably train your back harder. With that said, even though the back muscles themselves may be able to handle a lot of volume, that doesn't always mean your central nervous system can. If you really want to build that 3D look, that look of power that says, I am strong and has the strength to prove it, you're going to need to lift heavy. This is actually one of my favorite things about building a powerful looking back. It's hard to fake it using light weight alone. But with this in mind, if you want to train your back every day without completely burying yourself, you're going to need to be smart about it. The first thing you need to do is look at the program you're already doing now. Your back should be able to handle 10 to 20 hard sets per week at the bare minimum. Keep in mind the back covers a lot of area from your neck down to your waist, so everything from shrugs to good mornings will be included here. If your current back routine consists of nothing more than a couple sets of lat pull downs done as an afterthought at the end of your upper body day, your program needs a serious rewrite, and you should start there. Once you have your regularly scheduled training in order, the next step is adding in some low intensity work on your off days. The amount of volume each individual can handle varies greatly, which means the amount of work you do will be different from anyone else. This does make it difficult to recommend a one-size-fits-all approach here, but I'll do my best to give some general guidelines. Let's use a basic 4 days a week upper-lower split as an example. If you're already training hard 4 days a week, the first thing you can do is add some lightweight pump work on the other 3 days. At the very least, the increased blood flow will aid in recovery, and you might get the chance to experiment with some exercises you don't normally do. I like to work on movements that somehow mimic what you were doing on the previous day when active recovery is the goal. So if you had a lower body session on Tuesday and Wednesday is an off day, you might do something like high rep band good mornings on that Wednesday. 50 to 100 total reps is a great place to start and may actually be all you need for that day, even in the long run. In this example where you're already training hard 4 days a week, you may be content just adding in some high-rep active recovery pump work on the other 3 days and stop there. This alone will be enough for you to see a noticeable difference in how your back looks and feels, but you can push this further if you'd like. This next part requires that you have at least a general idea of what overreaching feels like. I know this is something that isn't talked about as much because it's not fun, but CNS fatigue is a real thing. If you start doing more volume than you can recover from, the debt starts to add up. Let's say you have the capacity to recover from 50 hard sets total per week, and I mean 50 sets over the entire body here, of course. If you start doing 55 sets a week, at the end of the month, you're going to owe 20 sets to the central nervous system, and it will start collecting that debt in any way it can. This will affect everyone differently, but the first thing you'll probably start to notice is that you feel just a bit low. You might start to notice you don't feel as much joy on a daily basis. From here, you might begin to lose your appetite, you might have trouble sleeping, your joints might hurt, and you'll probably start to get moody. From personal experience with overreaching countless times, often on purpose, though I can discuss that another time, it's best to slow down as soon as you notice any of this. I'm not saying that just because you have an off day that suddenly means you're training too hard, but if you notice yourself feeling this way 3 or 4 days in a row, it might be a good sign that you're doing too much and your central nervous system needs a break. So, like I said, this next part will require some body awareness. Going back to the example from before, where you're training hard 4 days a week and doing some active recovery for the back on the other 3 days, from here you can start slowly adding in some real hard sets. My recommendation would be to use exercises that don't involve the low back too much here, at least at first. So maybe you do your active recovery on 2 of your off days, and on the 3rd, you do 3 hard sets of cable rows. Over a month or 2, you could try upping that amount to 5 hard sets on 2 of the days and doing active recovery pump work only once a week. It's up to you to figure out how much is too much. Some guys may be able to add an extra 5 hard sets on all 3 of those off days. Others may need to stick to the low intensity pump work exclusively. Personally, I fall somewhere in the middle, but this will be highly individual. Up until this point, I've talked about training your back every day in very simple terms. Just add in some light work on your off days and slowly push the intensity higher until you start to overreach. But there are some other methods I found very useful, and the truth is that things will probably never be as cut and dry as that. Personally, I found that my training naturally cycles. My regular training is always the constant, but the work I do for the back on my off days is always different from week to week. So while my earlier recommendation is a great place to start, if you really stick with it and train your back every day, you'll probably start to find your own unique style. So now that we have the basics in place, let's move on to a few other more nuanced ways you can approach daily back training. Low intensity, greasing the groove style training works very well here. One of my staples over the last 9 months has been high frequency pull-ups. On my off days and any days where my back isn't worked too hard during normal training, I'll try to accumulate as many low intensity pull-up reps as I can. This means that throughout the day, anytime I think about it, I'll go do a set or 2 of pull-ups. And to avoid adding too much extra CNS fatigue, I'll make sure to leave many reps in the tank. So if you can normally do 10 reps in one set, only do 3 to 5. In this way, I might add an extra couple hundred pull-up reps over the week, and that will add up. I did see a significant size increase to my lats with this approach. Another thing I will say here is that if you're gonna do this, you gotta rotate the variations frequently. Using this high frequency approach with chin-ups exclusively, for example, will most likely lead to messed up joints. So rotate your grip often, and even better, use rings if you have them, as they will allow for freedom of movement, which will take some of the pressure off your joints. The last bit of advice I would give to anyone using this approach is to do some stretching to open up your thoracic spine, which is this part up here. Doing a lot of pull-ups can lead to tightness in this area, which can lead to sore shoulders. The last thing you want here is to ruin your regular training days because you've lost mobility and your shoulders hurt. So if you're going to do high volume pull-ups, take care of yourself and add in some stretching. Another thing that works very well, especially after a week of heavy, low back intensive training, is greasing the groove with band good mornings. Not only will band good mornings help you recover faster, which means more muscle and strength in the long run, but they'll leave you feeling better than you did before you did them. Let's say you did heavy squats and good mornings on Tuesday and you work on Wednesday. If you bring your band with you and pump out a few sets of 20 every hour or 2, your body will feel so much better, especially if your job involves bending of any kind. It's true that blood is healing, and the band good morning will pump all of that worn out muscle tissue full of it. For this next part, let me give you an example from my own training. I'm a huge fan of natural stone lifting, and I do it as much as I can. That said, it will bury me if I push too hard, so something I've done with my current training split is to have days scheduled with multiple options. 2 days of the week might be set aside for stone lifting or calisthenics. What I choose depends entirely on how I'm feeling that day or how I'm feeling that week in general. If I feel I have more room to push, I might choose the stones, and if I'm feeling a bit run down and I'm being smart about it, I'll choose the calisthenics, as this doesn't add nearly as much general fatigue. This is of course very individualized and will depend on your own personal goals, but hopefully this just gives you another example of how much freedom you have here. So So I think at this point, I have hopefully given you a pretty good idea on how you might start training your back every day. I realize a lot of what I've said really just translates to figure it out yourself. And while I do wish I could give you a more detailed approach, that's just kind of how it goes with this stuff. So before I end this video, I thought it might be beneficial to give you an example of what my current training looks like, just so you might get an idea of how daily back training could be added to a typical routine. Remember that our goals are probably different, and my main focus right now is stone lifting, so if you're not interested in that, you probably shouldn't copy what I'm doing, since a lot of my recovery resources are going towards that. But with that said, here's a typical week for me at the moment. I am going to focus mainly on the back training aspect here, as that's what this video is about. But if you ever want me to go over more on why I have my routine set up the way I do, I can do that in the future. So in terms of back training, starting on Monday, my back is going to get hit with neck work and high frequency greasing the groove style pull-ups. Tuesday is a heavy lower body barbell session, so my low back specifically is going to get worked through squats, good mornings, or RDLs, hypers, all that kind of stuff, which also means that Wednesday is going to be my one forced active recovery day. I'm going to try to keep myself from going heavy again on this day because it will mess me up for the rest of the week, and I have done that many times. So I'm going to do something like greasing the groove style band good mornings. Every hour or two, I might do a couple sets of 20 and help myself recover for the rest of the week. Thursday is going to be stones, and I'll also hit neck again. Friday is an upper body barbell day, so I'm going to do a couple sets of explosive movements like a snatch grip high pull or explosive rows or something like that. Then I'll move on to more typical hypertrophy work with 3 sets of 10 on a row, supersetted with 3 sets of 10 on an overhead press or something like that. Saturday, I have a calisthenics circuit, so it's going to be a lot of body weight work. Sunday is going to be like what I mentioned before. This is an option day. Depending on how I feel, I might do stones, I might do calisthenics, or I might do another active recovery rest day. So that's going to be it for the video. I hope this helped some of you guys out. If you're thinking about starting daily back training, I think you're going to be pleasantly surprised. I think it's one of the best things you can do. It improves your posture, it makes your muscles bigger, it makes you stronger, it makes you feel more stable during any type of heavy compound movement. It's just all around, it's been a great thing. So I hope you liked the video, and until next time, thanks for watching.